Hey everybody, it's Donald here. Today I just want to talk to you about how I now use my credit card and treat it as if it's a debit card, and why I think you should stop using debit cards and stop using cash where credit cards are accepted. So one of the first reasons, and you probably see that on a lot of some of the videos that I've been doing and a lot of videos on YouTube, are the benefits of cash back and points, right? You're leaving money on the table when you use these debit cards. Now, some debit cards I know have some cash back. I know USAA has one, Schwab Bank, their investor checking account has some, but it's not nearly as much as you're gonna get on these reward credit cards where, you know, minimum you should be getting at least 2% cash back on your purchases. And that's, you know, considering the fact that you're earning some percentage back plus whatever the value of those points are, whether you're applying them to travel or you're applying them just as statement credits or cash into your account. The main reason behind this though is a lot of retailers now, they know people are using credit cards, and every time you swipe your credit card, the merchant is going to be charged a transaction fee, right? That they're not paying that out of the kindness of their heart, right? They're passing that fee along to you. So any other major stores that you go to, they're going to increase their prices and include that merchant's fee or account for that when they set their sales prices. So for those paying cash or paying with a debit card, typically you're missing out on getting your money back, right? And that's what these credit card companies are doing. They're taking some of the revenue from the transaction fees and they're sharing that back to you. So it's almost a rebate if you want to think of it that way, rather than it being free money. Now, another reason you want to use your credit cards are for purchase protection. I mean, one example I have with the Chase Freedom Flex card is I used it to buy a ski bag. This was a roller ski bag. It was relatively expensive to me, about $230. And I got it from backcountry.com. I used it well a few times this year, and the last trip that I had it on, it ended up ripping. So I went and submitted a claim for the purchase protection, and through Chase. Again, this is the Freedom Flex card. All I had to do was submit my receipts, had to submit the picture of the damage, and just fill out what the value of that product was, or based on the receipt. And it only took a week or so, and I've got credited the amount that I paid for that bag to my account. No additional questions, no phone calls, anything. It was just all submitted online. So one example where you can apply that and use it. And now on top of purchase protection, some cards, they might have return protection. I know the American Express Platinum is one of those examples. And so basically, if a store has a 14-day or 30-day return policy, and let's say the return window is 90 days for this protection, the card issuer will give you a credit of the funds back too. So I don't know too many debit cards that will do that. You know, let me know if there are some out there, but just another perk. Now, the next biggest one that I want to highlight is your own security. Debit cards are tied to your checking account. This is typically where your direct deposit from your day job is going, right? While I know some people are more savvy, maybe they have multiple accounts, if you're swiping your debit card, you're giving people access, right? Whether it's some people, I know, have heard gas stations where they insert different readers and things to swipe your card information. They now have access to your checking, which is the money that you need to pay your bills, the money that you need to pay for your home and food and everything. All right, so there are two main laws that are used to protect consumers, both on the debit card checking account side and then on the credit card side. The debit card side of the house is the Electronic Funds Transfer Act. And now what's interesting about this is banks will hold the consumers liable for up to $50 only if they report the fraud within 2 days. After that, it's within 60 days, but you are now liable for up to $500. Now, every bank's different. Most banks, I'm sure, will not hold you to that 2-day minimum, but legally that's all that's required. And that, again, is scary to me. And now, even though the banks that will maybe extend past that and refund your dollar amount, right? This money came right out of your checking account. And so until you go through their steps, their processes to claim this fraud, you don't have that money in your checking account. You don't have it to pay bills. Which, again, not something that I would recommend and want anybody in this situation to have. Conversely, for credit cards, they fall under the Fair Credit Billing Act, which does not have that 2-day, 60-day limit on the fraud. Each bank is going to be different, right? But liability also does not increase after 2 days. And credit cards are, I would say, a little bit more liberal with it. And so rather than it just being like flat out somebody stole your card information, credit cards will also reimburse you if you paid for a service yourself, but it wasn't up to the right standard, or it wasn't what you paid for. Or I know during COVID, right, there were a lot of issues canceling hotels, and I've had credit cards where the hotel cancellation policy didn't allow me to cancel the room, but the issuer was able to still refund me my money for that hotel because we didn't want to travel in 2020, right, when COVID first hit. There's many things that applies to. I mean, I've even had issues where I've returned an item and I did not get a refund, and rather than wasting my time on the phone talking to the merchant and trying to figure out what's going on, I just went ahead and reported the charge on my credit card account. And there I put in the details. I say I want to return it, and this was on American Express. And American Express then can reach out on your behalf, or Chase, or whoever you might have, Bank of America, it doesn't matter. They will reach out to the merchant on your behalf, and if they don't get any response, they will typically close the case in your favor, right? And they will give you that refund. And there are times, right, where the bank, maybe they do reach out and it's unfavorable, or they need more information, but it's usually pretty seamless, and you're putting it more on them to do this work. And in some banks, it's nice that on credit cards, they'll actually refund the money first and then ask questions later and figure it out later. And others, they may wait until it's closed until they do so. So it really just depends. Regardless of the dispute reason, or if it's actual fraud, or if it's because of service was not what you had paid for, you are not waiting for the bank or the issuer to process this return before you get your money back, right? If you do it on the debit card, you have to wait for that all to happen. On a credit card, maybe they don't credit your account right away, but it's a credit card. You have an entire month before this amount is due. And even when it first hits your card, it's a pending transaction, which in most cases you have to wait until it actually hits on the statement. And I'll be honest with you, right? I used to only use my debit card myself, or only use cash, just like most of us here are taught that credit can be bad, right? It can get you in trouble. It can put you in financial ruins. If you rely too much on credit. That's sort of the stories that I'm hearing. And I went with that. Me personally, I didn't like the fact that when I swipe a credit card, that amount I spend, it takes 1 day, 2 days before even posts to my account, I should say. Nowadays, most will show as pending, but you're not able to pay towards that pending charge sometimes until it actually posts to confirm the transaction and make sure there's no fraud. As long as you are always aware of how much you have in your checking account, or how much you are willing to spend, and you're tracking that on your own, always use a credit card over a debit card for the reasons we've already went through. I can't say enough the rewards and the benefits that you get by just getting back some of the money that you're getting charged anyway in these transaction fees. And you can, whether it's cash back, and for me that could equate to $400, $500, $600 in the year, depending on how much spend it is. Or some people who have way more spend, it could be more. When it comes to travel, it's exponentially greater. But you have to be honest with yourself. Are you a traveler? Do you actually enjoy traveling on rewards? And I'll get into more videos later on kind of different methods and trips that we've done all on points. But if that's something you're into and you want to get into, you can get upwards of thousands of dollars a year on these cards. Just from regular spend, I've gotten easily on Chase Unlimited Rewards 30,000-40,000 points in a year, which could be a round trip flight to Mexico on Southwest, right? It just I can't say how much that's saving wise you get out by using these cards. You don't want to be a hoarder, right, of cash back, and I've learned this too, or of points, because as we all know right now, inflation's the thing. And as these points or cashbacks sit, they're not getting interest. They're not gaining any value. They're actually losing value. You want to earn as many points as you can with a goal in mind. And once you hit that goal, or once you get enough for whatever trip you're planning, spend them. Do not sit and hoard points for 5 years, 6 years, because those points are going to be worth much less than they were. And one of the other common things is, well, I don't want to ruin my credit, right? Or I don't know how to, because I don't have good credit yet, or I don't have any credit history, how to even get started. I know, right, it could be scary if you don't ever have a credit card yet, and how do you get started? I really encourage people to get started as soon as they can, to be honest. I can't say something general that applies to everybody. You have to know your own situation, right? So if you're a student and you might have an on-campus job, then don't try to apply for a premium travel credit card, right? Like if you're not at that point yet and you don't have any credit built, you don't want to set yourself up for failure there. But there's so many great, let's say, student credit cards out there. Or if you're not a student and you're trying to get started, look into secured credit cards, which some do have cash back. You do have to put a deposit down for those typically, but as you show that you're responsible and you can pay it back, you'll get that deposit back and you can upgrade it to a non-secured credit card and just strictly get your cash back. When you start seeing, well, you need a 700 credit score to do this, well, how do I get there? Like Discover It student card or the Quicksilver secured card if you're going on that route. Another way too is if you have a checking account with a bank that does issue credit cards, check with your own bank. I would, and that's how I did it. Like my bank was USAA, and your bank sees, right? They know the dollar value that you've brought into your checking account. They're more likely to approve you for an initial credit card than a bank that has no relationship with you, because it's a bigger risk, right? Especially if you don't have a steady income, or if you're a student and so you're not working full time, it is a bigger risk. I waited until I was in college before I got my first credit card. What you do to get your own, you need to typically wait till you're 18, and that card is still with me. Do I use it anymore? No, because I found much better cards. It was a USAA, I think, Visa rewards card, and I found much better rewards programs out there and cards out there, but I still have that card and it's still open, and it's the oldest card on my account. And so while right now I'm applying for a lot of newer, or I have in the past year applied for some new cards, so my credit age has been coming down. Having that one card to anchor me along the way has made sure my average age doesn't drop too low. And so I can get into more of those details as well in another video if folks are interested. And getting at the ruining the credit question, that goes to that first statement I was saying. You know, you really have to have, and know yourself, have to know if you can have that discipline to only spend what you have. And everyone's financial situation is different, right? I get it. When hard times come, you might not have a choice, but you need to really evaluate and say, is this truly a hard time where I'm going to spend over what I have? Or is there something that I don't need that I could cut out? Do I have to eat out this weekend, or can I go to the grocery store instead and buy a few meals, right? These are trade-offs, and it gets into personal finance decisions, which I'm not going to get too much into today, but you definitely want to be realistic with yourself, sit down and say, if I don't need to overspend, if I don't need to spend more than I have, then don't. And use the credit cards all you need to. Pay them off daily, weekly. You don't need to wait till the end of the month, right? And that's one method that I learned to help keep up with it. I started simple, started with one card. I did not get to a point where I'm at now overnight, right? Or I'm managing several cards at a time. But start with one, start simple, and you start building your way, building your credit, and learning how to keep track, and either setting auto pay or just getting into those good habits of always paying off, especially big purchases, paying them off sooner rather than later. Yeah, and that's all I really had. I mean, I can't say enough. I think the value of using a credit card over a debit is huge, especially when you consider the different security concerns that we went over, the rewards and the perks that you get off of this card, and cash back and things like that. And just different protections that you have for purchases that you make that you typically won't get, and you definitely won't get paying cash, but you typically won't get using a debit card. So yeah, thanks for watching, and really appreciate those who have been watching and checking in on the videos. Definitely, if you could support the channel, like and subscribe. I will plan to talk about a few more topics around how to get started and to get in credit cards and leveraging them to benefit you. Once you get to the point where you're ready to travel or get into the travel credit card game, some cool redemptions you can make, and just some strategies on how to get enough points to get there.